We're now moving over to South Africa, and I'm delighted to introduce another member of the GT&BSC Council, Traci Freeman, who is Investor Engagement, Marketing and Growth at BPESA. So over to you, Traci.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Karen. Yeah, such a critical topic at the moment. So very quickly, I won't be sharing slides. There is a lot of information that I'll share on the chat in a moment, though, our latest quantification report for South Africa. But the South African value proposition really pitches and sells that the country has a large, abundant, skilled English-speaking workforce. We have cultural affinity with our source markets. That would be Australia, the UK, and the North American market specifically. There is a massive amount of empathy that comes from our workforce. There is a 60 to 70% cost savings compared to the source markets. Incentives for the global business services industry in South Africa, which further reduces the cost of doing business in the country. Sophisticated infrastructure with an enabling environment, and a strengthening ICT and digital skills base with a very strong CX component, which is quite mature. Sadly, our country has a massive unemployment rate. We sit at a population of about 60 million. 31% of those are our youth aged between 18 and 35. Of the youth, our total unemployment rate is about 35%. And of that, the youth component is sitting at about 66%. But we know that we have this abundance of phenomenal talent that clients that are already making use of the South Africa as a delivery center are raving about the skills and the kind of service that they're getting from South Africa. So much so that we saw that in the past 4 years, which is from 2018 to 2021, there was over 54,000 additional GBS jobs. That's about a 24% CAGR, compounded annual growth that we saw for the country. So currently, South Africa is sitting on a GBS workforce of about 261,000, which sits at about 4.7 billion USD, and that export revenue is about 915 million USD. We were quite excited that in 2021, South Africa won the Top CX Offshore Destination Award, which just reinforced the customer experience abilities coming through from our skills. But really looking at where is the demand and where is the supply. South Africa sitting with such a high unemployment rate, looking at our source markets who are in desperate needs of skills, a couple of statistics with regards to the graduates that are coming out of our world-class education facilities. We have a number of TVET colleges, a number of universities, a number of private institutions, public institutions. But if you look at your STEM institutions, we have about 65,000 graduates coming out on an annual basis. Business and management, we've got about 58,000. Your humanities and social sciences, about 51,000. And in the space of education, we've got about 47,000 coming out on an annual basis. That excludes the 2,500 qualified actuaries, a number of legal graduates, about 5,000 annually, all the way through to about 250,000 registered doctors, nurses, and paramedics, just to give a bit of a snapshot of graduates. But that doesn't even include the number of school leavers that we have coming out. So those that do their grade 12 equivalent and are then available to the market. So what has happened over the last couple of years for South Africa is that through collaboration, through co-creation and public-private partnerships, working very closely with our two key partners, the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, and our social partner, Harambee, there's been a number of initiatives where we look to balance the scale, both stimulate demand, but then make sure that we have the skills supply coming through to meet that demand that is clearly coming into the country. And we have actually developed something called the master plan, which is specific for the global business services sector, which has, in addition, been identified as a priority sector. And it's really through this collaboration with government, with social partners, specifically with industry, that we've been able to support and hone the skills that we're busy producing and developing for our clients and our customers that are coming into South Africa and being serviced out of South Africa. So the focus is really how do we reskill, upskill, and future skill, and not dissimilar to Malaysia. There was also a skills framework that was created a couple of years ago. And off the back of the skills framework, we've been working with a number of institutions to make sure that we are tapping into our school leavers, tapping into our graduate base, and readying them for the global business services and the BPO world. There's a lot of self-skilled and micro-learning that's going on. There's a lot of just-in-time training and just-in-time learning that we're seeing individuals themselves taking on, as well as institutions. A lot of our BPOs have academies that they are pulling our entry-level skills into, honing their skills, giving them the requisite sales skills or customer experience skills that they need, and then either employing them for their on-premise work or for the work at home opportunities that exist. And like everybody, COVID has really opened up that work at home opportunity, so much so that we've now seemed to have settled on a 30% work at home, 70% on premise. But if I mention a couple of our partners that we work with, the presidency is a key one, and that ties into the master plan that we've created. And that's through the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative that we've actually created a tool, a free-to-use tool called sayouth.mobi. And that is for employers to tap into at no charge to really go and look for the skills that they require for their environments. This is actually sectoral, so it's not just for the GBS sector. But then equally so, unemployed individuals who are looking for work opportunities are able to upload their CVs, their certificates. They can do online learning on this platform. All of it has been zero rated to make sure that they're not incurring data charges and costs. And this initiative, or this platform, was actually created by through the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative and our social partner Harambee. And we've seen huge uptake on that. So that would be one example, but working very closely as well with our Department of Employment and Labour, our various higher education and training authorities. We have a MBA, or a higher degree that has been set up in one of our universities, the University of Cape Town, specifically focused on the global business services sector, working closely with our national youth development agencies, and then our SETAs, which are our sector education and training authorities. And those cross-cut, again, numerous industries from your insurance sector to your ICT sector, and making sure that we're tapping into them to bring the requisite skills that globally seems to be a shortfall, and to make sure that we can support and service through South Africa's GBS sector. With regards to the different regions and the support that they're getting, not only at a national level and some of the initiatives that I've mentioned, there are regional initiatives, the Cape, for example, Western Cape. There's a whole Silicon Cape initiative. They have something called Future Ed, which has been supported with, again, a public-private partnership, so bringing industry together with social partners to actually engage with unemployed youth and make sure that they get the skills that are required for the BPO sector. So these initiatives, over and above the academies that I've mentioned, and many of the academies have been showcased on this platform before, and a couple of other platforms, organizations I've mentioned like Harambee, CareerBox, where really they are saying, how do we ensure that this framework and this skills training opportunity that we're looking at for the number of unemployed youth that we have in the country is really honed in on, so that we can make an abundance of skills available for the broader BPO community. And again, I've already mentioned the growth that we've seen in the country. So there's a Jobs Fund 7 project that we've been running. There's the one of our retail, one of our banking organizations actually supported post-COVID a number of hospitality individuals that found themselves without work, to make sure that they reskilled for the GBS sector. That was highly successful with massive uptake. So just really, where there's any opportunity that we can support the country and the growth that we're seeing in South Africa from a geodiversification perspective globally, how do we support and assist? But then just to end off, Kerry, because there's a lot that we can actually add on to this, and I've really just thrown a couple of sort of the initiatives rather than deep diving into each one. There's obviously a desperate need for digital skills and ICT skills, and that's what the global community is looking for, and equally so South Africa. So again, we have a number of organizations that are looking for longer term, sort of a 12-month training, looking at your data analysts, your software developers, etc. But then there again, just that just-in-time training where there's learning as you're working opportunities with regards to the digital skills that we may require for our industry. So BPESA, as the trade body and industry association, working with a number of industry institutions, again, public and private, and really taking the guide from the global community, from the clients that we're seeing coming into South Africa, to help support and develop the skills that are needed for the industry to support clients and customers, but off the base of a massive unemployed pool. But as I always need to say, and this is for any of our council members, just because an individual is unemployed does not mean that they're unemployable. And that's critical to note. So there's graduates, as I've mentioned, and just phenomenal skills coming out of our schooling system, but just really looking to support them through the demand stimulation piece. So let me pause it there and pass back to you, Kerry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Tracy. So those figures of 66% youth unemployment are absolutely staggering. So I take it any claims that South Africa is saturated should be dismissed.